faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally Book Talk. Today, I'll interpret the book What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger. Its subtitle is Post Traumatic Growth. Psychology. This hopeful book teaches how to bounce back in tough times and grow after trauma. Few escape its sting. School bullying, betrayal by friends, loss of loved ones, marriage breakdown, illnesses, accidents, all can leave deep, unhealed wounds. That's trauma. Trauma strikes unpredictably and uncontrollably. It can plunge survivors into immense lasting pain and ruin lives. But it can also be a rebirth chance, finding meaning in suffering, rebuilding inner worlds for a more valuable life. This is the book's author. The concept Dr. Stephen Joseph aims to convey. Joseph is a professor at the University of Nottingham in the UK, researching psychology, health, and social care. He blends real cases with cutting-edge research to introduce post-traumatic growth psychology, a new science. This book isn't just essential for therapists, it's a practical guide for everyone. Whether you're struggling with stress and trauma or supporting a loved one, you'll find inspiration here. Next, I'll explore 3 questions. First, what impact does trauma have on life? Second, what helps us recover and grow from trauma? Third, how to move beyond trauma and achieve personal growth. First, let's dive into the initial question. What impact does trauma have on life? In English, trauma means a wound from physical injury. When harmful events tear our mental skin, they leave psychological wounds. That's psychological trauma. Traumatic events can destroy lives, but some gain new insights into meaning and self-worth afterward. This is what the author calls post-traumatic growth. On March 6, 1987, the MS Herald of Free Enterprise set sail from Belgium to England and met a shipwreck. In just 45 seconds, the ship completely capsized, killing 193 people. Those who died and survived in the accident experienced hell on earth, losing their loved ones. Some survivors endured immense psychological pressure for a long time and were often diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. You might be familiar with this term, whether in news reports or films. It often depicts people with PTSD who have nightmares involuntarily, recalling terrifying experiences in flashbacks or hallucinations. They fear and avoid anything that triggers those memories. They feel isolated and disconnected, struggling to feel joy, love, or intimacy as before. They often get angry, can't sleep, and are easily startled. PTSD can last for years or even decades, ruining some people's lives. However, some survivors grow because of the trauma. 3 years later, researchers revisited survivors of the Herald of Free Enterprise shipwreck. They discovered an uplifting phenomenon. 43% of survivors felt their outlook on life became more positive after the disaster. In their own words, I now value my relationships more, and I don't take things for granted anymore. I do my best to make each day more fulfilling. I understand humanity better and am more forgiving of others. I feel a deeper understanding of life and I'm more determined to succeed. The researchers surveyed survivors of other disasters and found that despite deep trauma, many experienced positive changes in their life attitudes. Many pursued forgotten dreams, like taking their dream job or going back to school. Many trauma survivors also undergo changes in perspective. Kevin experienced a heart attack which made him realize the true value of life. He used to worry about small things, but now he focuses on making each day meaningful. For many trauma survivors, small joys in daily life are more important than wealth or fame. Trauma also affects relationships, especially intimate relationships bring significant changes. After Kevin recovered, he no longer took his wife's contributions to the marriage for granted. Now, he spends more time with his wife. Many trauma survivors value family and friendships more than before the traumatic event, and their empathy has greatly increased. So how exactly do such positive changes happen? This brings us to the second question. What exactly enables us to recover and grow from trauma? After experiencing trauma, people often face immense psychological pressure that shatters their ingrained views and understanding of the world, forcing them to see life through new eyes. We call these ingrained views the assumptive world. It's a projection of the real world in our minds. This world forms from childhood. For example, if you behave well, you get rewarded, while bad kids get punished. First, we assume the world is friendly towards us and often underestimate the likelihood of misfortune. Second, we believe everything is controllable and predictable, and good people will be rewarded. If we work hard, do the right thing, and eat healthy, we can live well. Finally, we tend to view ourselves too optimistically, always believing we are upright and noble. These deeply rooted assumptions are like scaffolding for building a house, constructing the framework of life, allowing us to live peacefully. However, trauma can suddenly pull down this scaffolding, exposing us to harsh truths. Life is very fragile. Death can come at any time. Unfair things happen often. In the face of disaster, you may become selfish or cowardly. The new information from trauma conflicts with our ingrained assumptions, leaving us confused and forcing us to re-understand and reposition ourselves. At this point, people may go through two cognitive processes: assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation refers to using the old cognitive system to receive new knowledge from trauma. Accommodation, on the other hand, involves modifying old assumptions to adapt to new information. Our original assumptive world is like a precious vase. One day, the vase is shattered. If we use assimilation, we try to piece it back together as it was. But upon closer look, every crack is clearly visible. Others grieve the broken vase, but accept it can never return to its original form. Instead, they might create a mosaic with the pieces, finding new value in innovative ways. This is accommodation's essence. Psychologists find we instinctively choose assimilation first to preserve our worldview, creating an illusion that the world remains controllable and predictable, offers temporary comfort, but makes survivors more fragile, defensive, and vulnerable. The glued vase seems restored, yet the slightest tremor shatters it again. Accommodation modifies our assumptive world with new truths. Bad things happen to good people. Life is unpredictable. This allows vulnerable survivors to reinterpret their trauma from new perspectives. Only through accommodation can we grow after trauma, find new meaning in suffering, and create value. But overcorrecting by discarding all old assumptions is equally maladaptive. For example, an accident victim might see nowhere as safe, creating new problems. We need balance between assimilation and accommodation to rebuild an assumptive world closer to reality, with accommodation as key. It sounds simple, so why can only some rebuild grander, stronger worlds through accommodation? Because adopting accommodation requires three vital factors. They are three core psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Only on this foundation can accommodation begin. Autonomy means the need to determine actions through personal will. Relatedness means the need for caring, secure connections with others to gain belonging and safety. Competence need refers to the desire to feel useful in social life and to exercise and showcase one's abilities. In a study, psychologists interviewed people abused as children, asking what turning points helped them cope with past trauma. Answers mostly included being truly accepted, feeling loved and cared for, developing belonging, and forming intimate connections. It was these experiences satisfying autonomy and relatedness needs that sparked psychological regrowth. One man said, "I used to be lonely. I built a 10-foot wall inside to keep people out and prevent hurt. For one day, I told my friend about childhood abuse. I thought he'd leave, but he accepted all of me. Because of him, I finally learned to trust and love again." Others mentioned regaining achievement and control by fulfilling competence needs. For example, Susan scored highest on a math test, She said, I returned to school for my GCSE in math, my rebellion against abusive parents and ex husband. Now I feel victorious. No humiliation or bullying affects me anymore. Like Susan, many trauma survivors rebuild confidence by showcasing talents, feeling capable of self protection and new beginnings. All right, we've now understood the forces enabling trauma recovery. So, after trauma, what can we actually do to heal quickly and achieve personal growth? This brings us to the third question: healing trauma and moving toward renewal. In this process, you can seek help or practice self help. Seeking help means professional therapy. Many psychotherapies effectively address PTSD. Beyond that, self help is often people's first choice. This book provides a detailed self help guide called the Thrive Model. Thrive meaning to flourish. It has 6 steps. Before using this guide, remember one principle: you control the pace of recovery. If exercises cause physical discomfort, strong mood swings, or panic, stop immediately and resume when calm. Now let's explore the Thrive model step by step. First step: self assessment. Why start here? After trauma, prolonged high stress may leave you emotionally overwhelmed, numb, tense, or exhausted. Many exhaust themselves just completing urgent tasks with no energy left for self care. This neglects the most crucial part of recovery, your own state. So, this step shifts focus to assessing and organizing your condition. Only then can formal recovery exercises begin smoothly. First, check physical safety, avoid self endangerment, ensure medical, psychological, and legal support access, maintain normal eating and sufficient sleep. Second, check psychological safety, identify emotional triggers to understand and manage feelings. Also, assess social connections. Spend time with family and friends. In short, this phase involves monitoring your mental and physical state while understanding emotions. Second step: cultivating hope. After full self assessment, adjust your mindset. Research shows prolonged trauma suffering often stems from guilt. Over half of survivors feel guilty for living while others died. Over two-thirds blame themselves for inaction during the disaster. To heal, shift thinking patterns from self blame to self reflection, from regret to hope. Hope stems from 3 thinking styles: goal setting, motivational thinking, and pathway thinking. First, set goals for yourself. They can be big or small. Big goals, like earning a degree, getting promoted, or career changes. Small ones, like getting your car serviced, doing laundry. Regardless of size, goals inspire hope. Then cultivate motivation to move toward goals, encouraging yourself forward. Finally, strategize pathways to achieve goals. Anticipate obstacles, find solutions, and make wise choices. So, how do you train hopeful thinking? Break big long term goals into small steps. Focus only on the immediate one and use positive self talk. For example, tell yourself, I can do this, to gain momentum. When learning to drive, many consciously self narrate: check rearview mirror, start engine, recheck mirror. Proven effective technique to explore your hope potential. Journal for 10 minutes about past goal pursuits, how you found paths and progressed. Ask, what motivated me then? How did I sustain that motivation? What strategies achieved my goals? Repeat this exercise often. You'll realize you've always had resources to overcome obstacles. Hope connects present reality to future possibilities. In that bright future, we've already conquered adversity. With hope, we gain momentum for the next step: crafting new narratives. Crafting new narratives means redefining our relationship with trauma. How we describe ourselves shapes our feelings. Victim implies passivity and helplessness. Survivor denotes overcoming adversity. Thriver goes further, representing active control and hope. Through new narratives, we evolve from victims to thrivers. So, how do we craft these new stories? First method: intentional metaphor use. Since humans think metaphorically, the right metaphor offers fresh perspectives and solutions. For example, people who've experienced trauma often say, I feel like a bird trapped in a cage, lost in a dark forest. These misleading metaphors can imprison us. But with a bit more imagination, we can free ourselves and find the right metaphors. Even a cage has a door that can be opened. If you get lost in a dark forest, you can wait for the sun to rise and find your way. Sarah is a trauma survivor who grew up in a mountainous area with frequent forest fires. She found a metaphor for growth in her life experiences. In the past, I saw forest fires only as destructive disasters, but I later learned they can bring benefits too. Though animals and their habitats are consumed by fire, only through this baptism of fire can trees grow more lushly and habitats restore ecological benefits. New life sprouts from the ashes of destruction. Trauma can also foster growth. The strength we gain from fighting PTSD, understanding its meaning, is like the new animals and plants emerging after a forest fire. Finishing the metaphor, the second way to craft new narratives is expressive writing. All you need is a blank paper. On this paper, write down what troubles you. You can describe everything from another's perspective, write an unsent letter, or craft a fairy tale. Write continuously for 10 minutes without stopping, whatever comes to mind, and stop when time's up. Repeat this process daily for the next 7 days. Use imagination to see from different angles. Importantly, use twice as many positive words as negative ones for better effect. Using words that express cause and effect and deep thinking also brings benefits. Cause and effect words include because, reason, due to, effect, important, about. Deep thinking words are meaning, know, relationship, purpose, matter, etc. This is very important. Generally, people tend to narrate but not seek causes, which can lead to emotional buildup. Using these cause and effect words in writing helps us ponder the causes and effects, exploring the meaning behind traumatic events. Faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally Book Talk. Today, I'll interpret the book What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger. Its subtitle is Post-Traumatic Growth, Psychology. This hopeful book teaches how to bounce back in tough times and grow after trauma. Few escape its sting. School bullying, betrayal by friends, loss of loved ones, marriage breakdown, illnesses, accidents, all can leave deep, unhealed wounds. That's trauma. Trauma strikes unpredictably and uncontrollably. It can plunge survivors into immense, lasting pain and ruin lives. But it can also be a rebirth chance, finding meaning in suffering, rebuilding inner worlds for a more valuable life. This is the book's author. The concept Dr. Stephen Joseph aims to convey. Joseph is a professor at the University of Nottingham in the UK, researching psychology, health, and social care. He blends real cases with cutting-edge research to introduce post-traumatic growth psychology, a new science. This book isn't just essential for therapists, it's a practical guide for everyone. Whether you're struggling with stress and trauma or supporting a loved one, you'll find inspiration here. Next, I'll explore 3 questions. First, what impact does trauma have on life? Second, what helps us recover and grow from trauma? Third, how to move beyond trauma and achieve personal growth. First, let's examine the initial question. What impact does trauma have on life? In English, trauma means a wound from physical injury. When harmful events tear our mental skin, they leave psychological wounds. That's psychological trauma. Traumatic events can destroy lives, but some gain new insights into life's meaning and self-worth. This is what the author calls post-traumatic growth. On March 6, 1987, the MS Herald, a free enterprise, sailed from Belgium to England and encountered a shipwreck. In just 45 seconds, the ship completely capsized, with 193 people. Those who died and survivors experienced hell on earth, losing their loved ones. Some survivors endured immense psychological pressure for years and were diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. You might be familiar with this term. Common in news and films, it depicts people with PTSD experiencing involuntary nightmares. Recalling horrors through flashbacks, they fear triggers, feel isolated, and struggle to experience joy, love, or intimacy. They're often irritable, sleepless, and easily startled. PTSD can last decades, destroying some lives entirely, yet some survivors grow because of their trauma. 3 years later, researchers revisited the Herald of Free Enterprise survivors. They discovered an uplifting phenomenon. 43% reported more positive life outlooks after the disaster. In their words, I now value relationships more and no longer take things for granted. I strive to make each day more fulfilling. I understand humanity better and am more forgiving. I feel I have a deeper understanding of life and, oh, I'm more determined to succeed now. The researchers surveyed survivors of other disasters and found that, despite the deep trauma from tragic events, many have genuinely experienced positive shifts in their life attitudes. Many are repursuing forgotten dreams, like landing their dream job or going back to school. Many trauma survivors also undergo changes in perspective.